All right, hey everybody, Zach Odom here with Zach Odom's Mule Logging. Hey, look, I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Okay, so I get a lot of questions about why I like to keep mare mules. All these girls, from let's see, it be from your right to your left, is Alice. This is Kate. This is my main logging team that I log with mostly. These two girls, and then the ones I've been a breaking is June, next, and May. And hopefully y'all can see everything that I'm showing you here. But I have a lot of people ask me sometimes, Zach, why do you keep mare mules and why don't you have geldings or horse mules? Some people call them John mules. Different terms, different parts of the country. I've heard the term Molly mules, which is also a female mule. I've heard the term a John mule, which is a male mule. Here in the South, we pretty much call them mare mules or horse mules. Horse mules being males, mare mules being females. Okay? So before we get into too much on the different sexes of mules, let's talk about where a mule comes from, okay? The mule comes from a horse and a donkey cross, okay? But there's more to it than that. There's a little bit more to it than just a donkey and a mule, because there's two different ways you can breed to get two different things. You can breed a male donkey jack to a horse female mare, and you come up with a mule, which is what I have here. Okay? Now you can go the other way, and you can breed a male stallion or male horse to a female donkey, and you will get a henny. Now, little differences in the two. There will be people that'll tell you that you can't tell the difference in the two animals. For me, I can. Maybe not every one of them, but I know the larger mules and hennies. A mule will tend to have a horse-like body, size-wise, more muscular built, with the bone, the leg bone, and the feet of a jack. And the head structure, they get a lot from the jack. Not all of it, but a lot of it they get from the jack. So a mule will appear more like a really big donkey. If you've got a really nice mammoth donkey, they're often mistaken for mules just because of their size. And a mule could be seen as a mammoth donkey, and a mammoth donkey could be seen as a mule, if that makes any sense. So with that being said, your mules are going to be a little bit bigger, a little stouter. Size-wise, they're going to be similar size to the mare that they're bred out of. In other words, if you breed a quarter horse type mare with a mammoth jack, you're going to get a mule that's going to be pretty similar in height and build to that quarter mare. Okay. On the same token, if you breed a mammoth jack to a draft mare, say a Percheron, a Belgian, something along them lines, then you're going to get what we're looking at here. Kate is my shortest mule. She's 16'1". And then Alice, they're both bred out of old style Percheron mares, old farm style type mares, shorter, wider, stout made. These two girls over here, June is out of a Belgian mare, believe it or not. Her mama was 17 hands. May, on the other side, was bred out of a Percheron mare, Ruth, and she was 17 hands. Now, both of these colts are going to obviously get bigger than May or than Kate and Alice here. They're obviously going to get bigger. You can look at them right now and just tell. These are coming 3-year-old mare mule colts. That's another term that we use here. We call them all colts. They're either horse mule colts or mare mule colts. That's just what we call them. Now, in the horse world, a colt is generally a male, and a filly is a female until they get a little older, and then they're either called a stallion or a gelding, or they're called a mare. Once it gets to a certain age, or a filly up until it's a certain age. For us in the South, especially, and mule people, it's a mare mule colt or a horse mule colt. That's just kind of how we do things. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you how it is. Anyway, these girls are going to get bigger because they're bred out of a little bit taller mares. So what I'm getting at is, if you want a really big mule, you need a big mare. The jack does not influence the size quite as much as people think it does. Yeah, you want a big, heavy bone jack if you're breeding for draft mules. You want a good, heavy bone jack and whatnot, but it's not as important as it is on a smaller mare if you're wanting a big mule, if that makes any sense, because the mare is going to dictate the size more than the jack does, if that makes any sense. So let me know. I don't want to get too far off course here. So mules are going to be more horse-like in the body with more of a donkey-like head shape. Long ears. The head material is going to look more like a donkey in the head and have a horse-like body. You're going to get the size and an endurance. You're going to get the size of the mare and the bulk, and then you're going to get the endurance of the donkey. And that's why mules were so sought after when they become a thing. It's just for that reasoning. Now, a henny is going to be, they're going to have a little bit more of a horsey type head, little shorter ears usually, depending on the breeding. They're usually going to have a little bit more of a horse type head and more of a donkey like body. And then I kind of want to go into mare mules and horse mules with that. Okay, a henny in the back end, you see how this girl here, she's got a big round butt. She's got a big old rounded rear end, and Alice does too. Some horse mules and hennies will have a pinnacle right here. And if you'll look over there at June and May, they're a little gangly right now because they're 2-year-old coming threes. They're a little bit more gangly in the hind end. They haven't filled out and bloomed out yet. So they're right now, they look a little bit more like a horse mule would tend to look. Now, this stuff that I'm telling you, y'all, is not a hard set rule. Not every one of them that you come across is going to be what I'm telling you. Temperament-wise, looks-wise, and all that. So you can't take all this as hardcore evidence, but generally speaking, this is how it is, okay? So a horse mule will look a little bit more, he'll have a little bit more of a peak on his butt. He'll be more what we call a donkey hind end. Now, he'll be great big, and have a big barrel and big chest and all that mess, like a mule would. But his rear end is usually a little bit more narrower, a little more gangly compared to a mare mule. Mare mule, like these girls, are built more like a horse's rump. Now a mule will have a rounded top line right here on their rumps. They don't have that sunk in spot like a horse does. They're just kind of round straight across the top, and round around the back. That's why that Tennessee box breeching I've got, I like the way that fits a mule. It fits them, to me, it fits them better. Kentucky harness, where you got a ring here and a ring here with a little strap in between it, and then your hip drops coming off of it, that fits a mule pretty good. But now this Western type harness, like a lot of people use on horses, where you've got the center spider ring, okay, and then your two hip drops drop off of it, it don't fit a mule quite as good because there's nothing for it to lay in up here. It's just a rounded surface. So unless you use a tail crooper on that type of harness, it'll just tend to move around and get sideways on their butt, and it just don't fit them as good. A Tennessee box breeching harness fits a mule real good, and a Kentucky mule harness fits a mule real good. And I'll try to find some pictures of the two harnesses and stick them here in the video so y'all can have an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so horse mules will tend to be just a little bit more gangly in the rear end. That's one difference. It's kind of like dudes and girls. Us men, we usually ain't as pretty as y'all females are. No, in our best escaped efforts. Now, are there men out there, that are going to be nice looking? I'm sure. I can't compliment or comment to that effect because that just ain't my thing. But anyway, I think y'all understand what I'm saying. There are exceptions to the rules. You will get a horse mule every once in a while that looks like $1,000,000 because I've seen them. I've laid my eyes on them. Okay, but the majority of them are going to be a little bit more gangly in the hind end, and they'll have a big barrel, and a lot of times they'll have a big gut, but they'll be just a little bit thin in the hips. if that makes any sense. Okay, so as far as their legs, horse mules are usually about the same. If the jack's got good bone structure, and he puts a good bone structure in his mule in his colts, a female, a mare mule or horse mule, their legs are going to be about the same. You want a jack with good straight legs. You don't want a jack that's that stands here like this. You want him to stand square. You don't want a jack that his legs are bowed out and cowhocked and all that mess. You want one that's just straight up and down, and a leg on every corner, so to speak. That's going to make your mules look a lot better. And the same thing goes for the mare too. Okay, a good smooth top line on a jack is an important thing. And I think what I'm going to do in this video, y'all, is kind of tell you some things about jacks, as well as discuss male and female mules. Because if you understand the jack, you'll understand the mule, if that makes any sense. So mare mules will tend to be a little bit prettier, usually. Probably the biggest reason for keeping mare mules versus a horse mule, for me, and what I've noticed over the years, mare mules will tend to settle down quicker. Horse mules like to tussle and play. They're kind of like us dudes. We don't settle as quick as y'all ladies do. We like to have fun and roughhouse each other and whatnot, and horse mules ain't no different. They're the same way. You can't hold it against them. They're just boys being boys, y'all. But they do like to tussle a lot, and if you keep them in a lot together, they're going to roughhouse and tussle and all that mess, and then when it comes time to go to work, they wake up the next day to go to work. They're kind of tired because they done tussled all night, if that makes sense. Now, you can keep them in a stall separate from each other, and that'll rectify that problem. You can do that with mare mules and horse mules, and that'll rectify that playing in the pasture and wearing themselves out before they're ready to go to work, if that makes any sense. Okay. Let's see. Mentally speaking, mare mules will settle mentally a lot quicker than horse mules. I know y'all seen in my videos the differences in May and June. How May mentally is not settled as good as June is. June is all business. She's all work. She's ready to go. She's ready for the next command. She's more mentally stable and settled and prepared for the job at hand. And a lot of horse mules, like mare mules, generally will settle at, say, coming 3-year-olds. They'll be settled enough where you can work them and do just fine and get along fine. Or horse mules really don't tend to settle until they're on out there about 5 or 6. Really good is what I'm saying. Now, you can still work them and get along just fine with them, and all will be fine. You can still, work them and get plenty of work out of them. You just got to put up with the shenanigans of horse mules. They'll be standing there. You'll tell them whoa and be letting them have a break or whatnot, and one of them will reach over and pull the other one's bridle off, or be gnawing on his halter or something. Just games that us boys like to play. Okay. If you're going to keep your mules in with other livestock, mare mules, say like you have goats or calves or cows or whatnot. If you're going to keep your livestock kind of together and not keep your horses or mules separate, mare mules will tend to get along with other livestock better than horse mules. Horse mules can get, especially like babies, like more colts, for instance. When I was raising colts, I always kept my mares and colts separate from the horse mules, because the horse mules, I actually had a mare and a colt get out one time and got out in the big pasture with the rest of the mules, and one of the horse mules I had in the pasture started chasing my colt and was going to hurt it. I don't understand their thinking exactly behind why they like to go after little things, like baby calves and baby goats and stuff like that, but they will. So that's something you got to keep in mind. And now also, y'all, it can also go both ways. A mare mule can do the same exact thing. Again, this is just kind of a generalization. We're talking about the law of average across the board. The law of average says mare mules are generally prettier. Mare mules will generally settle down quicker. Mare mules will generally get along with livestock better. Okay, I hope y'all see where I'm headed with this. Sometimes you'll get a mare mule that's the same as a horse mule. And sometimes you'll get a horse mule that's just as settled and easy to get along with as these mare mules are. So there's exceptions to the rules, but I'm just giving you the general rule of thumb. If you were to take 50 mules, 50 horse mules, and 50 mare mules, I'm trying to give you the generalization across the board so you can kind of put all this together in your head of what's going on. They're easier to break. Mare mules are easier to break to harness. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they settle quicker. What I was talking about mentally settling quicker. Mare mules tend to be a little bit more business, where horse mules tend to want to play a lot more. Horse mules will generally be a little more, they'll be a little bit more rough. They'll be a little bit more harder to handle. Where mare mules, generally speaking now, again, generally speaking, I got to really send this home because there's some mare mules out there that are just, butt heads. And there's also some horse mules out there that are butt heads. But generally speaking, horse mules tend to be just a little harder to get along with. Not always, but generally. Okay, that's been my experience. So that's one reason why they're easier to train. Mare mules is because they're just a little easier to get along with, and they settle mentally a little ahead of a horse mule, if that makes any sense. So let's see, what else do I need to tell you? Mare mules will generally have a cleaner. They will generally have a cleaner, smoother head and ear. Which in the mule world, when you're looking at a mule and you're wanting to sell a mule or buy a mule, here in our parts, and we're in mule country right here in Kentucky and Tennessee, Missouri. This is kind of the mule belt of the country. We look for a good, smooth, clean head and ear. That's very important to us mule people. And that's why we give them haircuts to show off their head and ear and their necks and what they look like, makes them look good. Okay, mare mules will tend to have a little bit prettier heads, a little better headset with, their ears will be a little bit more stood up and rolled up, where horse mules tend to have a little shorter ear a lot of times, and it won't be just quite the same. You would just have to see a couple of them, then you would start picking up on the differences in what I'm talking about in their head, one having a smooth head versus the other one being a little bit more rougher. But I've seen mare mules that are rough too. May over there, she's got a head that only her mother can love, and I can say that because she's mine. June has a really nice head. She's a little bit Roman nosed, but she's got a nice head and ears. She's smooth over the eyes. You don't have no, pig-eyed sunk-in spots. She's a really nice made mule. Where May is really nice made all right up to her throat, right up to her neck. She just don't have a head to save her life, but she got that from her mama. These two colts are out of the same jack. A jack can only do so much. If you've got a mare with an ugly head, a jack ain't going to help you none. You got to have a mare that's got a pretty good head and ear too. Okay, so mare mules will tend to have a little bit a better head and ear. That is true. Okay, and as far as working is concerned, horse mules, if you break them right in the very beginning, usually horse mules can stand just a little bit more work every day. In other words, like if you're doing heavy work where you're pulling hard and whatnot, like us, logging and whatnot, you could get just a little bit more work out of a pair of horse mules versus like this pair of mare mules on the law of average. Again, there's really stout mare mules that will outpull a horse mule, and there's horse mules that'll make these look bad. I'm telling you the law of average. The law of average says that horse mules generally, for their size, you can get just a little bit more out of them if you have them broke right. The problem with most people is they never get them broke right to begin with. Horse mules can tend to be a little bit lazy. They might work good for, say, all 4 hours, and then after that 4-hour mark, they just kind of draw a line in the sand and say, I ain't working no more today. And they'll start throwing a fit and acting up and causing all kind of problems. where these Mare mules will just kind of keep chugging along. They're not going to hurt themselves for you, but they'll kind of keep chugging along and trying to please you. Or a horse mule is more like, the heck with you, I ain't trying to please nobody but myself. Does that make sense? You see where I'm headed with that? Okay, so now that we've discussed some of the differences in horse mules and Mare mules, Mare mules will generally bring more money if you go to a sale. They will bring more money. So if you're looking to buy a pair of mules and might be on a more of a budget, a pair of horse mules might be better for you. Mare mules cost a little bit more, and they cost a little bit more because a lot more people tend to want to keep Mare mules for the reasons I've listed already. This ain't something I made up on my own. This is information I've derived not only from my own experience, but other people that has kept mules for years and years and years. For instance, Mr. Ronnie Tucker in McEwen, he kind of prefers, well, to be honest with you, he'll work either way. He'll work Mare mules or horse mules. His main logging team he had for years and years was a horse mule and Mare mule together. My granddaddy, the last pair of mules he had was a Mare mule and a horse mule together. Some people says that a Mare mule and a horse mule together will tend to balance each other out. I don't know. I haven't had that much experience with that combination. However, I have worked the two. And I have worked a Mare mule and a horse mule together. And the pair that I did work together, I thought turned out pretty nice. The horse mule was a handful, but once I got him broke, he was no problem at all. So there's probably some truth to that. But this information I'm putting out here for y'all, y'all, is not something I come up with all on my own. This is information that's been taught to me throughout the years from older mule men that have handed it down to me, and things that I've learned on my own as well. So I'm just kind of I'm passing along information that has already been passed to me, if that makes any sense. Okay, so if you, with the characteristics that I mentioned, depending on what you're looking for in a mule, if you need a team that might be a little easier to get along with and easier to get along with animals, Mare mules is probably what you want to go with. If you don't have other animals to keep them with and you're not in a real big hurry to get a settled team and you got a little more time to invest in them to train them, get them trained, and you can deal with how to deal with a hard head, a pair of horse mules probably be a little bit better for you because they'll be cheaper. Now you got to keep in mind, if you get ready to sell those mules later on down the road, they're not going to sell quite as good as a pair of Mare mules. All things being equal, that means height, color, age, all that other good mess. Now you can't compare apples to oranges where you're comparing a pair of 18 hand sorrel horse mules to a pair of 16 and a half hand pair of Mare mules that are black. Sorrel mules gonna bring more money. Mare mules are gonna bring more money. Taller mules are gonna bring more money. If you got them great big old 17 hands and taller, they're gonna bring more money, y'all. That's just the way it is at these sales. If that 15 to 16 hand range, you still get a good heavy made mule just like these. These girls right here are heavy stout made. The last time I weighed them, they were 1,500 and 1,550. 1,500 right here, 1,550 over there. These girls right here, they're just 2 coming threes, and right now I would say they're right at 1,200 pounds. Would be a pretty good guess on their weight. But time they're finished growing, they're going to be 17 hands or just a little better, and they're going to be 1,700 pounds or a little better. These girls right here, I'm hoping I can get them to 1,600. I think that's easily doable, but I don't know. But what I'm getting at is, with these bigger mules, these taller mules, at the sales, they'll bring more money. You big 17 to 18 hand mules that are stout made, big and heavy, they go up to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania a lot to the Amish, and that's what they like. They like those big mules. I do want to tell you something, though. There's a difference between a big mule and a tall mule. Okay? Everything that's big isn't tall. Like these girls here are heavy. They're stout. But they're not tall. There's 16 and a half hands average between them. Okay? These girls right now, they're tall, but they're not big. So everything that's tall isn't big, and everything that's big isn't tall. Just because you got a pair of 17 and a half hand mules don't make them big. They might not have a chest but that wide, if that makes any sense. And if they've only got a chest that's that wide, uh, they're not going to be super big mules. They're just going to be tall. So I just want you to understand that just because a mule is really tall, that don't make him heavy. And what I do for logging, I need to weight. Uh, most of the time, the taller they are, the heavier they're going to be. Most of the time. But these hitch bred horses that are being bred nowadays, a lot of these hitch bred horses, these show horses, they're real narrow made and they're real tall. They don't have a lot of bone. They got a lot of leg, but they don't have a lot of bone. Whereas your older style, heavier type work stock, for what I do, are more desirable, and their mules bred out of them are more desirable because they're usually a little bit calmer temperament. They're easier to break. They're going to be a little shorter, stockier type made. They're just a little more desirable for what I do because, y'all, you got to remember something. At the end of the day, it takes weight to move weight. And the heavier team you got, they can move heavier weight longer than, say, a lighter team can. I mean, it don't take a genius to figure that out. Okay? So let's keep that in mind. So if you've got a big 17 and a half hand pair of mules and they only weigh, say, 1,500 pounds, they're no better off than these girls. You see what I'm saying? And y'all, most people think their mules weigh way more than what they actually weigh. I've put these girls on a scale, and I know what they weigh because I've weighed them. Okay, most people haven't actually weighed their mules, and they just guess, and they'll say, well, they weigh 2,000 pounds. Y'all, it takes a big, big mule to make 2,000 pounds. I mean, they have got to be showing up horses to get that big. Okay, a 1,600 pound mule is probably about average, okay, size-wise, and collar-wise. Like these girls are wearing 24-inch collars. I'd say these colts, time they're grown, are going to be like in a 25-inch collar. They're going to be just a grunt bigger. So size-wise, weight-wise is what I look for, not height. There's always that argument over tall horses versus short ones. What I found out in my life and working these animals, and I worked a lot of different ones, your taller animals, like 17, 18 hand animals, they're going to get along better in plowed ground. If you're going to be in plowed ground a lot and farming and doing that type of work, those taller mules, taller horses, they're going to shine just a little bit better because they can get across that plowed ground just a little bit better. For pretty much everything else that you want to do, the stockier ones, the shorter, stockier ones are where it's at for me. Now, there are big, stocky ones that are tall and stocky. They're just massive. I mean, they'll just be 17 and a half hands and weigh 2,400 pounds. And big pulling horses. I've had some Percherons that were big like that. I had one mare that I called Ruby. She was 17.2, almost 17.3, and she weighed 2,250 pounds. I mean, she was a gigantic mare. She just big old front end on her, big old butt, big barrel. She was just a big old horse. And I would have loved to have raised some mule colts out of her because they would have brought good money because they were going to be big and stout. And like up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Lancaster County at the Amish up there, that's what they want. They want those great big stout mules that are tall that can get along that plowed ground a lot better. For logging, I mean, a pair of mules that big would be nice. I mean, I wouldn't turn them down. They're harder to harness and get around with sometimes, but they would have enough weight and height to do the job. And the bone, the bone is a big thing. I like for my mules and horses to be half as deep as they are tall. In other words, I don't want them to have all legs. I want them to be half barrel and half leg for their total height, if that makes any sense. That's what I like. I like a leg on every corner. I like when they're standing there looking at me that they're square and look like a bulldog standing there. That's what I like because I like that weight. I like one being stout. Low and wide is what I heard Jeff Fergie say one time. It kind of I laughed about it because I thought it was funny. Somebody complimented Jeff on a pair of his horses because he's got pulling type horses, and Jeff's got some phenomenal horses. And sometime I'm gonna get over there to Somerville and I'm gonna do some videos with Jeff so y'all can see a lot of the way his horses work and whatnot. Jeff is a phenomenal teamster, and those of you that know him know what I'm talking about. But Jeff, we was at a plowing, And the guy was complimenting Jeff on his horses, talking about how stout they was. And Jeff said, "Yeah," he said, "these are the kind of horses I like, low and wide." And ever since then, Jeff, he's a half a nut anyway. You just got to know him to appreciate him. But anyway, that's what I like. Also, I like low and wide. 17 hands is plenty big enough if they got the width, the girth. It's plenty big enough for me. Again, horse mules and mare mules. Let's go back and recap and just kind of go over this thing about what we've learned. Okay, so horse mules and mare mules. Horse mules gonna bring less money at a sale. You can buy them cheaper, but you're gonna have to sell them cheaper. So that's something to keep in mind. Generally speaking, now there are exceptions. I have seen some horse mule teams that were really, really nice and sold for a really good price. I had a buddy of mine right here in McMinnville, Tennessee, Kerry King. And Kerry, if you're watching, this is for you, buddy. Kerry King had a really nice pair of horse mules here just a few years ago. Big sorrel horse mules. I mean, they were sharp. They had a good head and ear. They had a real nice filled out body. I mean, they were sharp. So, with that being said, not all horse mules fit the narrative I'm telling you. I'm just telling you generally speaking. So, y'all need to remember this. Okay, so horse mules generally won't bring as much money at the sales. You ain't going to sell them for as much money, but when you buy them, you ain't going to spend as much money, if that makes any sense. Okay. Horse mules will tend to be a little bit rougher. They like to gnaw on each other. They'll come up and bite each other on the butt and pick the hair off of each other. You can tell they've been scuffling. So if you keep a few horse mules together, they're gonna be rough on each other. They like to play and they like to play hard. So that's one thing that they do. If you've got them in with other livestock, they might be a little harder on your livestock. Chasing your calves or chasing your goats or something like that, and they might even kill them, y'all. Which a mare mule could do the same thing, but horse mules tend to be that way more than mare mules do. Let's see here now. Body-wise, a horse mule, most of the time, if you got the same mare, same jack, everything being equal, horse mule going to be just a little bit bigger, generally speaking, but not always. They're going to be just a little bit bigger, and they will stand just a little bit more work at the end of the day if everything was equal. 17-hand mare mule, 17-hand horse mule, weighed 1,700 pounds, 1,700-pound mare mule, 1,700-pound horse mule. That horse mule, if he's broke right, that is the key, y'all. I've got to say that and really drive that home. If he is broke right, generally speaking, you'll get just a tad more work out of him at the end of the day. Okay? And that's a positive for horse mules. Generally speaking, mare mules will have a little bit better, smoother head and ear. They'll be a little bit prettier. Like I said, y'all females are just prettier than us males are. That's just the way it is. In life, us males, we don't have the shape and the form that y'all females have. We just ain't as pretty naturally as y'all are. So it stands to reason with these animals that these animals are the same. The female animals just tend to a lot of times be prettier in a lot of the species, different animals. And these horses and mules, that's kind of goes without saying. Okay, so mare mules tend to be a little bit prettier. They're easier to get along with, generally speaking. They're easier to break because they're easier to get along with, and they're also easier to break because they settle down mentally a little quicker. It's no different than boys and girls, going to school, the girls used to kid us boys all the time, and, let's see, what was it? I can't remember the sayings. They used to have a bunch of them. Girls are from Mars and boys are from Jupiter and something, 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 and boys are stupider. uh, those little sayings that used to go on about boys versus girls, and like boys and girls insurances on new vehicle or on vehicles when they start driving for new drivers, like a teenage boy versus a teenage girl. Teenage boy's a little bit rougher, a little bit more careless. Where a teenage girl, generally speaking, is a little bit more settled, a little more statistically settled and statistically safer. It stands to reason, y'all. It's the same thing with mules. It ain't no different. So these are some of the things that I've noticed over the years, and why I lean more toward mare mules. for me. Now, I would own a pair of horse mules if I found the right pair. I wouldn't turn down a good pair of mules, a good pair of horse mules. I wouldn't do it. Uh, I wouldn't have a problem working a horse mule and a mare mule together. But you just got to remember that horse mule, he's going to come up there and bite her on the butt and pull hair out of her. And, she's going to have these spots like that right there. And she's going to have hair pulled out of her because he's going to roughhouse her. That's just the way horse mules are. They're going to do stuff like that until they get a little bit older. Now, as they get older, they'll settle in and, they ain't no problem. And they're just like us guys. And, I was telling somebody just the other day, they were talking about, well, I wish I could go back to my 20s or I wish I could go back to my 30s. I'll be honest with you, y'all, I had a lot of hard times in my 20s and early 30s. I haven't always been the easiest guy to get along with. It cost me my first marriage. I've been married before. I'm divorced, remarried now to Marcy. I was hard to get along with in my previous life, y'all. And thankful to Jesus Christ, I have been able to learn, and to Marcy, I have been able to learn better and do better with my life. But I haven't always been easier to get along with. And it took me till I was 36, 37 before I really started settling in and learning my mistakes and learning my faults. And I still have a lot of faults. I'm not perfect by any means. I still have a lot of faults. But it took me a long time to learn it. And that's why I wouldn't go back to my 20s and 30s. I like it right here where I'm at. I'm knocking on 40. I like it right here where I'm at. And I plan on staying, and hopefully between reading the Bible and praying more to Jesus and Marcy's been a big help to me, y'all. She's a good woman. She's my best friend. She's a godsend for sure. She's had to put up with a lot in the beginning, but I would like to think that it's paying off for her now because I see a lot of the error of my ways. Horse mules ain't no different. When you get a horse mule until he gets on up 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, he can be a little hard to handle, a little rough. So just keep that in mind. If you've got the mentality to deal with it, it ain't a big deal. If you got plenty of work, young boys and young mules, that's what my granddaddy used to say. If you'll keep a young boy busy and work him, he ain't got time to get into trouble. With horse mules, they're the same way. If you'll keep them working, they ain't going to have time to get into much mischief. They'll be so tired whenever you bring them home at the end of the day that they ain't going to have enough energy to get out there and tussle and scuffle with each other and roughhouse each other. They'll be wanting to get some rest and take it easy and get something to eat. So keep that in mind. We're mare mules. Like I said, they're just generally easier to get along with. And they settle a little bit more mentally, a little quicker. So look, I hope I've covered this to where y'all can understand it and kind of broke it down and made it simple. All my videos, I want them to be simple for you to understand. And, I want you guys to be able to come here and feel at peace. I don't have an agenda. I'm not pushing an agenda other than I want to see Jesus in each one of your lives. Now, that is an agenda I will push. I love the Lord with all my heart. He's been good to me. And I've told y'all kind of a little bit about it here. In my past life versus now. If it weren't for the Lord Jesus Christ, y'all, I wouldn't be where I am right now. All this that I'm able to do and show y'all, I wouldn't be able to. I just couldn't because I wouldn't have it. The Lord has blessed me far, far beyond what I deserve as a man. I don't deserve Marcy. I don't deserve my children. To be quite honest with you, I don't deserve anything north of hell. That's just the truth. Now, I'm telling you the truth. And I'll tell you more about this as time goes on. We'll get to know each other a lot better. I feel like we're all, getting to be family here. A lot of you I keep up with in the comments, and I've grown to quite fond of a lot of you. Some of you that don't comment, I don't get that chance, but I do know you watch my videos because, I might see you out somewhere and say, hey, you're Zach Odom. And I'm like, well, okay, who are you? And, we meet each other, and I realize that you watch my videos. So there's a lot of you that don't comment, but you do watch the videos. And look, thank you all. I appreciate it. I appreciate your kind and encouraging words. I don't have a bias in these videos as far as pushing one agenda or the other than the Lord Jesus Christ. And I don't want anybody to be ugly to nobody in the comments in any shape, form, or fashion. I'll just delete that mess and be done with it. I'm not going to deal with that. If you want to criticize, that's great. Just don't be ugly. Be constructive. If you're going to criticize, say why, give a reason, and have experience to back it up. Don't criticize when you don't even own a horse or a mule or whatever it is that we're talking about at the time, okay? So let's keep this fun and encouraging and peaceful for everybody. I want this place here at Zach Owens Mule Logging YouTube channel. I want y'all to be able to come here, sit back, relax, hang out, learn a little bit about mules. Even if you don't even care about mules or horses or logging or anything, I hope and pray that I can create an atmosphere that y'all can come and hang out with us, and y'all are just looking forward to being here with us and sharing this time and just being peaceful. Okay? All right, y'all. I want to go ahead and end the video here. I had planned on extending the video out just a little bit further and showing y'all some hats. These that I've got on, I've got a couple different colors and whatnot. I do want to show you guys, but I want to make a separate video for that, so that way we can be a little bit more dedicated, because I'm going to need y'all's help. I'm going to let y'all vote on some colors of some hats that I got in mind, and also some lightweight jackets. So anyway, we'll do that on another video, maybe on the next one or something. But look, thank you for stopping by and hanging out. I'm going to put my email up here on the screen, as always. So if any of you need me, please, by all means, feel free to email me. We'll exchange phone numbers and whatnot. We'll talk on the phone if we need to. I'm always glad to help any of you anytime I can. And thank you all so much for helping my channel to grow, and also for watching and commenting on our videos. It helps us a lot. It circulates our videos, and it helps our channel to grow. And I can't do it without you all. So thank you very much. If you need me, holler at me. And as always, I'm going to be praying for you. Our revival at our church is next week, Sunday through Wednesday night. And for all of you that are praying people, I pray that you pray for us in our revival. I'm actually going to be speaking one night there. So you all pray for me that the good Lord will help me to have the words to say, and that souls will be saved and lives will be changed. That's the main reason that we're here. So again, thank you guys. Y'all have a good one, and I'll see you next time.